His actions are his own, and so are the consequences. But now, as Harry prepares to deliver a keynote at the Kiev Security Forum, the stakes extend far beyond royal drama. He's expected to call on the United States to honor its treaty commitments, effectively addressing a sitting administration from within a war zone. So the real question isn't just why Harry is in Ukraine, it's who's funding the platform he's speaking from. Stay with us. In the next segment, we'll reveal a hidden financial connection between the Sussex's Delaware-based holding companies and the NGO currently hosting Harry in Kiev. The paper trail is about to heat up. Don't go anywhere. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Up next, Harry's 3-word warning to the Kremlin. But first, understand the shockwave triggered last night by David Beckham. We need to move past the glamour of the palace dinner and examine a 7-year timeline of calculated moves. This isn't a chain of bad luck. It's a carefully recorded pattern of broken commitments. The forensic report, set for full public release by the palace on April 28, 2026, outlines what insiders are now calling the ultimate extraction strategy. The first record in this file goes back to November 2019. At the time, the world believed the Duke and Duchess were simply stepping away for rest. But behind the scenes, an encrypted account labeled 42 was quietly established in the Cayman Islands. This wasn't a modest reserve fund. Within weeks, 11 pounds million began moving through a web of shell companies stretching across Dubai and Singapore. The timing raises serious questions. This financial structure was being built while Meghan Markle was still officially representing the Queen, essentially creating an exit route before the idea of a stepping back was ever publicly. Jump ahead to the Sandringham Summit in January 2020, the image is still fresh. Prince Harry leaving after a tense discussion with his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. The terms were simple: step away if you must. But royal titles cannot be used for commercial gain. It was an agreement built on trust hard in. Yet the Cayman record suggests that even as that agreement was being finalized, those same funds were already being used to secure major media deals. While the Queen was promised continued service, the offshore network was being positioned to build something entirely different: an empire. That contradiction came to a head in March 2026, during the Sussex's controversial return to Sydney. Palace analysts closely tracked public response, and the contrast was stark. Where Princess Diana once drew massive, emotional crowds in 1983, this visit was met with visible indifference. Drone footage near the Sydney Opera House showed scattered tourists rather than devoted onlookers. Even at Bondi Beach, beachgoers barely reacted as media rushed past. But April 15, 2026, marked what insiders describe as a moral tipping point for King Charles III. During a memorial for victims of a tragic incident at Bondi Beach, Meghan appeared to share in public grief. Yet behind the scenes, something else was unfolding. Within minutes of her arrival, an online feature shop dated with every item she wore. What appeared to be a moment of mourning was, in effect, turned into a live marketing rollout. A senior palace source reportedly remarked that monetizing a memorial crossed a line the institution could not tolerate. The situation escalated further just 5 days later on April 20th. A luxury wellness retreat offered tickets priced at $2,000 for attendees to spend time with the Duchess. Hundreds signed up expecting a meaningful experience. Instead, Meghan reportedly stayed for only 30 minutes before leaving for a rugby match. The backlash was immediate: demands for refunds, accusations of deception, and growing damage to the Sussex brand. By April 24th, the situation had reached a breaking point. The dossier is no longer hidden. What was once private investigation has moved into public scrutiny. Questions are now multiplying. Why did a Los Angeles-based fixer receive £3 million from the Cayman account just days ago? And what was discussed during Harry's private meeting with a senior Australian official only hours after Meghan exited that retreat? The timeline is now complete. And with a final report expected in just 4 days, many believe it could mark the definitive end of the Sussex era. The lingering question, who else is connected to account 42? While public attention lingered on the solemn imagery from Bondi Beach, a far more calculated system was operating behind the curtain. This is what investigators are calling the profit mechanism, a highly structured digital monetization system now under scrutiny by the Financial Action Task Force. To understand why the monarchy's patience has worn thin, you have to see how tragedy was allegedly transformed into a commercial pipeline. The mechanism unfolds in 4 precise stages. It begins with what analysts describe as a sensitive activation. On April 15th, 2026, Meghan arrived at the Bondi Memorial. Publicly, it appeared to be a moment of reflection. But digital forensic data suggests that the moment she stepped onto the sand, a PR team was already executing a synchronized data push. High-resolution images of her $500 designer dress weren't just circulated to media, they were instantly linked to an affiliate shopping platform. The second phase is called the institutional tether, and this is where the legal boundary may have been crossed. Product listings didn't simply describe clothing. They explicitly used the title Editress of Sussex to elevate perceived value, directly tying a royal designation to commercial links during a memorial for victims of a violent tragedy. What followed is being described by courtiers as a deeply sacrilegious violation of royal protocol. The third phase of this mechanism is what investigators call the ghost payout. Each time a user clicked to shop the look of the Duchess, a commission was quietly generated. But instead of flowing into a standard transparent business account, the money was redirected through a secondary affiliate chain, eventually landing in the HM209 account based in Georgetown. This wasn't just influencer-style branding. It was, according to insiders, the unauthorized commercialization of a royal title, something the couple had explicitly agreed not to do during the Sandringham summit. The fourth and final stage, and the reason tensions have now escalated to crisis level, is being called the ethical fracture. Palace rules are unambiguous. No member of the royal family, past or present, is permitted to profit from locations tied to national or global tragedy. So when advisors to King Charles III reviewed data suggesting that Meghan Markle may have generated more than £200,000 in commissions from the Bondi Memorial appearance alone, the issue moved beyond internal conflict. It became a matter of potential legal exposure. Now the situation has expanded far outside palace walls. The Financial Action Task Force, the International Authority on Money Laundering and Financial Transparency, has formally opened an investigation into these affiliate revenue streams. Their concern: whether these hidden commissions were structured to bypass global banking regulations. And when the FATF gets involved, the consequences are severe. One possible outcome is a 30-day global asset freeze, meaning every account connected to the Sussex network, from Montecito Holdings to offshore Cayman funds, could be locked under international directive. This looming threat sheds light on the urgency behind recent moves, including the symbolic distancing scene and actions tied to David Beckham's widely discussed a proud moment signal. The palace, it seems, is moving quickly to separate itself legally and publicly by ensuring Meghan is recorded without formal title recognition and certain official contacts. But as financial pressure mounts, another detail from the Bondi footage has drawn attention. While Meghan was being photographed alongside first responders, members of a private security team were reportedly seen handling an encrypted satellite device, equipment typically reserved for high-level, which raises an unsettling question. Why would a private individual require military-grade encryption at a public memorial? The deeper investigators dig into the the look system, the clearer it becomes that the clothing itself may have been only a surface layer. What was truly being transacted at Bondi may have gone far beyond fashion. Then came yesterday morning. At exactly 10:30 a.m., the heavy oak doors of room 4B inside the Privy Council office were sealed shut. Hidden away from public tours and media access, the room became the setting for what some insiders are calling a constitutional turning point. At the center of the table sat a single black leather-bound file, the Cayman dossier. A document so sensitive that, reportedly, only 4 individuals in the United Kingdom have reviewed it in full. Its authority rests on what experts describe as a triple-layer verification system. The first layer consists of 40 detailed transaction records, tracing exactly 11 pounds million as it moved through a complex international network. The funds didn't follow a direct path. They circulated through shell corporations in Dubai and Singapore jurisdictions chosen for limited transparency before settling in a Georgetown-based account in the Cayman Islands. These transactions weren't uncovered by media speculation, but flagged by the Financial Intelligence Unit, FAO, working in an unusually close partnership with Palace forensic analysts. Once the FIU presents findings to the sovereign, the matter is no longer private, it becomes an issue of state. By decrypting Account 42, investigators claim to have uncovered something even more serious. The funds were allegedly supporting a private intelligence structure, a kind of a shadow court operating independently of and in opposition to Buckingham Palace. This leads to the second layer, what insiders are calling the legal and nuclear option. Inside room 4B, King Charles III was presented with a draft of the Titles Deprivation Act, 1917, a law not seriously considered in over a century. Originally introduced during World War I to strip titles from royals who sided against Britain, it remains the most extreme legal tool available to the monarchy. Invoking it would effectively label its target as acting against the crown itself. One senior official present described the atmosphere as a clinical, almost frozen. The king reportedly spent 15 minutes in silence, studying the evidence tied to the Singapore transfers. When he finally spoke, the tone had shifted entirely. Gone was any trace of personal warmth. He is said to have told the Lord President of the Council, "We are no longer safeguarding a family member. We are safeguarding the integrity of the British state. Proceed with the draft." What was approved inside room 4B yesterday morning is far more than a recommendation. It is a final, irreversible order. By activating the Titles Deprivation Act 1917, King Charles III has effectively bypassed the traditional lengthy parliamentary process, using a sovereign emergency provision that enables the immediate removal of all titles, honors, and peerages. The document makes its position clear. The title of Duchess of Sussex has allegedly been used in ways that conflict with the dignity and responsibilities of the peerage. Yet the most unsettling revelation within the Cayman dossier isn't tied to funds routed through Dubai or Singapore. It's found in a separate section labeled a domestic interference. Inside are records of 3 transactions, totaling nearly 2 pounds million, that didn't originate overseas. Instead, they came from a high street bank in London. That means someone within the United Kingdom, someone with access close to the royal household, may have been quietly supporting Meghan's operation from inside the system itself. As dusk fell over London yesterday, the order was signed. The constitutional and nuclear option had been deployed. Now, as the palace prepares to formally announce the stripping of Sussex titles, attention has shifted. The focus is no longer solely on Meghan Markle, but on the identity of the insider who enabled the financial trail, who, within palace circles, made the Cayman dossier possible. That answer reportedly lies buried in the final pages of the report, and the countdown to its exposure is already underway. But perhaps the most cutting critique of the Sussex brand didn't come from legal experts or royal insiders. It came in the form of something far simpler. A $64 candle? A well-known entertainment journalist recently purchased one of Meghan's signature candles from her lifestyle line. marketed as a symbol of refined, royal adjacent to luxury. When it arrived, the flaw was unmistakable. The candle had no wick. It couldn't be lit. In high-level PR circles, symbolism matters, and inside palace discussions, this wickless candle has reportedly become shorthand for the Sussex operation itself, a brand that appears polished, expensive, and carefully constructed, yet lacking substance at its core. It's an enterprise that promises illumination, but lacks the mechanism to deliver it. What began as a manufacturing mishap has evolved into something more serious, an institutional concern. As Mother's Day approaches, reports suggest that the Montecito-based marketing machine has intensified its efforts, promoting products tied to the royal titles of the couple's children. This is where the issue turns critical. The agreement made during the so-called Amagacitic period with Queen Elizabeth II was built on a single principle. Royal titles must not be used for personal commercial gain. Using the styles of prince and princess in connection with retail products, candles, home goods, lifestyle branding represents, according to insiders, a direct violation of that agreement. More than a business decision, it is seen as a breach of a promise made to a reigning monarch. Sources close to King Charles III suggest this was the breaking point. One senior aide reportedly put it bluntly, telling your own story is one thing. Using the next generation as a marketing device is another entirely. The erosion of influence became starkly visible during the recent Australian trip. A side-by-side comparison tells the story. In 1983, when Princess Diana visited Bondi Beach, the shoreline disappeared beneath crowds of people who had waited hours for a glimpse. Fast forward to April 26. As Harry and Meghan walked across that same stretch of sand, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. Footage from local outlets showed beachgoers barely reacting. Some didn't even sit up. While media crews attempted to create a sense of spectacle, the public response remained strikingly indifferent. They were no longer being treated as global icons, just as passersby easily ignored. The Diana effect had given way to something else entirely. Quiet detachment. And it's within that gap between perceived importance and public reality that the Sussex brand appears to be unraveling, even during moments of emotional gravity, such as Meghan's interactions with victims and first responders at the Bondi Memorial. Reports suggest the Shop the Look system continued updating in real time. It was a stark contrast to have the outward role of a duchess alongside the operational mindset of a commercial enterprise. Now, as the palace moves toward concluding its financial investigation, the question is no longer if titles will be removed, but what remains once the illusion fades. The public is beginning to see that $64 candle for what it represents. And as global perception shifts, fueled by the indifference witnessed at Bondi, an even more troubling development is beginning to surface from the palace's digital forensic teams. This latest development centers on a network of bot accounts, allegedly used to artificially boost the visibility and success of these products. And the trail of those accounts leads directly back to the Cayman funds. The so-called wickless empire is beginning to unravel, and the next revelation could turn public indifference into something far more lasting. As of today, April 28, 26, the sealed doors of room 4B have reopened, and the signed mandate of the Privy Council is now moving through the machinery of government. The shift from royal prestige to public liability is no longer speculation. It is now an active legal reality. And as the title of Duchess is gradually removed from official international records tied to Meghan Markle, one question dominates. What does the aftermath look like for the Sussex brand? Based on intelligence within the Cayman dossier, 3 possible futures have emerged for Meghan and Prince Harry. The first is total exile. In this scenario, the Titles Deprivation Act 1917 is applied at full force, removing every title, honor, and military connection. They are reduced to private citizens. Mr. and Mrs. Mountbatten Windsor. This isn't just symbolic, it's financial. Global luxury brands don't invest millions in private individuals. They invest in status. Without that, major deals collapse, streaming contracts disappear, and the brand fades into irrelevance within an already crowded celebrity landscape. The second scenario is a prolonged legal battle. According to insiders within elite Los Angeles legal circles, Meghan could be preparing a major counterstrike, launching claims of institutional targeting and contractual interference. This path would mean years of litigation, keeping the conflict alive in headlines while applying pressure for a significant financial settlement. It would be less about resolution and more about endurance. But the third scenario is the most unsettling and reportedly the most plausible. An internal collapse. Whispers from within Kensington Palace suggest that Harry may have already sought independent legal advice. There are even rumors of testimony indicating he was unaware of the £11 million held in the Cayman account. If he can establish that he was distanced from or misled about the financial operation, it opens a path for his return to the UK in a dramatically different role. Not as a rebel, but as a returning son. This scenario would likely end in a high-profile divorce, one that dismantles the us versus the world narrative entirely. It allows the crown to shield Harry while placing responsibility elsewhere. For the monarchy, it offers a path to recovery, but at the cost of a deeply fractured family. As of this moment, one thing is clear. The line has been drawn. If you want to stay ahead of official announcements and see the financial records as they surface, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. The next 24 hours could define the future of an entire royal chapter. What do you think Harry does next? Share your thoughts below. We're reading everything. But before we close this file, there's one final detail, one the public hasn't yet seen. While the Financial Intelligence Unit tracked 40 transactions into account 42, a pattern emerged. 37 originated overseas, but 3, totaling nearly £2 million, came from a private investment fund based in London. That changes everything. It suggests Meghan was not operating alone from California. There may be a powerful backer within the United Kingdom itself, someone with both financial reach and privileged access to the inner workings of the royal household. We have the fund managers' identities. We have the transaction dates. And in the next investigation, we will reveal the individual allegedly linked to financing what some are calling an internal unraveling of the monarchy. The final betrayal may be closer than anyone expects. Stay tuned.